Welcome to the Keys to the City podcast, where the kingdom enables your success. I'm your host, Christian Graham. Welcome today by my boy Vince, aka Marvelous Muncher.
Yes, sir.
The one and only.
Hey, I hope so.
The one and only.
I hope so.
I think so. Hashtag Be Marvelous.
Be Marvelous. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about Be Marvelous and what that entails for you.
What that means to me.
Yeah.
Well, if people didn't know, obviously I'm a foodie here in San Diego. SoCal, I'm trying to stretch out my wings a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I say Be Marvelous in the end of all of my videos. This started a few years back because to me, Be Marvelous means do something that you're proud of, like do something that you want to do, right? Be marvelous about it, right? Like leaning in towards things that you want to do. I feel like, especially this time, not to get too deep, but a lot of people these days, they don't want to do what they want to do, you know, what they're passionate about, you know? And me doing this whole foodie game, social media game, it's what I've always been passionate about. And so I kind of use it as for myself, especially to be as a reminder that, hey, be marvelous, you know, do what you want to do what makes you happy and be marvelous about it. Show it off to the world, you know, because people need your gift. Like we talked about earlier, right, Christian?
Yeah. When we were talking off pod, you know, like that's my main driving point of Keys to the City, of my overall brand and mission, personal brand, is how am I going to activate and multiply people in and through their gift?
Right.
Whatever that gift may be, like just go and do that. You know what I mean? Like you said, do something that you're passionate about, do something that you love, do something that you are uniquely designed and gifted to do. Because anyone can develop a skill. Right. But there's also people that have just a natural born gift or thought process or whatever it may be that only correlates to them. And I'm under the firm belief that's what you need to be doing, or that should be the only thing. As a business coach, that should be the only thing that you get paid to do.
Right.
Because, you know, people will tell you, especially all the business gurus and entrepreneur gurus and stuff like that on social media, is like, yeah, just go get the laundromat, just go get the vending machine, go get the ATM machine, you know, low risk, you know, pretty decent reward businesses. Okay, go get the Amazon FBA started, FBM started, real estate, whatever it may be, you know, and try to take all of these different paths to investment, you know, into just making money. And really you're just seeking out how to make money. And I think a lot of people then fall into this fallacy of like, okay, once I make the money, I'm going to go and do this. But then how long? Right. How long are you going to, you know, what is that game plan really looking like that I'm going to take this foot out from making, say I'm making $50,000 a month doing Amazon FBA here. Why am I going to go make buttons now, which is something that I really wanted to do, and I'm making a couple cents on the dollar for it?
Dude, you're saying Amazon FBA like it's easy.
I have
only because it's funny because you bring that up because I did it before, right? That's why I'm saying it. Right. I see what you're saying when you want to make buttons. Yeah. Do what you're passionate about.
Right.
But half the things you named, half the things I've done, and if it's led me to this point, you know what I'm saying? So be passionate, like what you're saying about, right? Sometimes it's hard, but
and that's
go
the
into
thing
it.
Is that you then also fall into the fallacy of like, okay, because it worked for this person, that it's going to work for me. But also because of my faith, I believe that God uses you in a way that's going to, like, he's going to maximize you when you're obedient to the thing that you are called to do. You know what I mean? And so, yes, you can probably go make a ton of money doing this, or you could end up flopping and like not wanting to. I'm not saying that you flopped in Amazon.
Oh, I flopped, bro. It was bad.
I'm not saying that you flopped, but yeah, you know, you could end up flopping trying to pursue the things that other people are trying to tell you to do because you see the result, or you've seen, you know, this coaching program or whatever it may be, or you took the webinars, whatever it may be. You took the classes, you got educated, you started doing it. But it wasn't really what you're meant to do. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that, not to dive too deep into it, that you can really like step away from those things and focus in on your gift. Once you hone in on your gift, once you focus in on the thing that you're called to do, I'm under the firm belief that gift will make room for you. That's just a biblical principle, you know.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because it's, regardless of what you do, I feel, just from personal experience, you'll always be led back to what you're supposed to do. Regardless of what you're trying to do, trying to hustle, trying to make money here, trying to make money there, something will always bring you back. you know, whether it's you believe in God or you believe in something else, the universe, whatever it is,
Right.
you'll always be brought back to it because that's what you're meant to do.
Right.
So when in whatever path you choose to take, because I've taken a lot of paths, right?
Yeah.
I've tried different things and all that stuff. And it's funny because entrepreneurs, you know, you're one, I'm one. It's something that you have to do a lot of different things to end up doing the same thing that the one thing that you're supposed to do.
Amen.
And the only way you're supposed to get there is if you try those different things, right?
Right.
So for you, you're not discouraging people to try other things, are you? Like what do you suggest people do to find that?
So yeah, actually just, you know, the episode of my wife and I just recorded our marriage podcast.
Oh, cool.
In honor to Mother's Day coming out. And actually our pod is going to be released after that. But anywho, during this podcast, I shared the one thing that really resonated with me from my mom that I learned, which was try the things that you want to try at least once in your life that are good for you, you know? And so I've taken that and ran with it in a whole different direction than probably the way that my mom intended to say it, because she's that 9-to-5er that, you know, really workaholic in that way, where it's like, she'll still question me, like, you know, within the past 6 months or so, she'll be like, she's been like, oh, why don't you just go get a real job? You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, Mom, cool. Yeah. Like, yeah, I know you don't know anything of what we do, you know what I mean? But we're still making really good money.
Good money, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because my dad always asks me, he'll be like, what do you do again?
Yeah.
Even though my dad it's funny, one of my dad's coworkers really follows my page, and he found out my dad was my dad. And so every time I post a video, he shows my dad, knowing that my dad watches all my videos. But even to this day, my dad will be like, wait, what do you do again?
Yeah.
He'll still ask me those questions because he doesn't fully understand it. But, you know, I get it.
Yeah. I don't think that generation, it's just a generational thing that they really can't grasp. You know what I mean? Like, I still can hardly grasp how to utilize TikTok and stuff like that. Like, I'm still really, really uneducated in that space of how these kids are doing it, you know, because you can make one post on there and get 2 million views.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy, dude, especially because, you know, I'm a social media manager, right? I do it for a lot of people. I think with social especially, it changes all the time, that it's hard to pinpoint one thing. Like there's best practices and stuff like that, but you just got to keep trying until something lands, right? Like TikTok for me has always been hard. Other people are like, oh yeah, you can get like you said, 2 million views on one video, just random. Right. And sometimes it is random. But I think at the same time, it's like for me, I just haven't figured it out either. You're not the only one here, man. It's hard.
Yeah. What are some of the key techniques and best practices that you utilize, you know, for those that are in the social media, you know, content creation space that are really trying to maximize their platform, trying to build, trying to grow? Yeah. What are some of the techniques or strategies that you put in place?
Is this in context of like yourself building your own brand or building your business's brand? Like what are we talking about exactly?
Yeah, for myself, it would be my personal brand, but then I also have, you know, Smack In, of course. That could be, you know, the business brand, or even like through the MK Lab, you know, we're developing and cultivating these artists and trying to mold their brands as well. So I kind of
like speaking context to you, Christian, like I think, dude, you got a lot of things under your belt, and you can be known for each of those things, right? Because you're like people, you think about people's interests. I love basketball, but that's not the only thing I love, right? I don't love just one cuisine of food. Right? I love burritos, but I also love burgers, right? Like there's different things you can be known for. So in context for you, I know you kind of did it before with the financial stuff and doing this pod, like you're getting yourself out there more, right? Because I think people really, with social, they want to resonate with a person. You know, they know, for me, I do food. Oh, he does social media. Oh, he does content creation, but they want to know me. Right. And so for you, it's like just getting out there more. You said you're a business coach, right? Yeah. Maybe just go around talking to people, other business owners, you know, and talk about like their experience of what it takes. And you throw in your little tips here and there yourself, right? With Smackin', same thing. What if there's another person who wants to open a restaurant, but they need some tips, and you throw up a video, hey, like this is 3 tips how I got started for my company. This is how we're able to scale to this day. 3 things that we did right now to get to this, or things that we do every day to get to this point. You know, just little things there, because you don't know who is this going to resonate with, right? Right. There's no perfect plan for social. It's all about just being consistent, right? And finding one video or finding things that do land or you feel like resonates, and you make more of that video, right? For example, for me, it's one of my videos I always tend to pop off are the interactions with people. Right. That's why I post them, right? Like it's like I'll be eating something, someone come up and be like, hey, what is that? Or hey, like, can you share some with me? You know, and just that, because it's a fun interaction. Right. So same thing with you, just finding those videos that really land with people. But the only way you'll get there is if you're consistent and you keep posting content, right? Because we talk about work, right? a lot of times what it takes to be successful in something is a lot more work than you think it's going to take. Right?
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. People are like, oh yeah, you post 3 videos, one's going to go viral.
Right.
It's like, no, I've been doing this since 2016, dude. And and there's still people bigger than me. People blew up on TikTok 2 years ago and I'm over here struggling. I've been doing it for 6 years. It's just like, what is going on? Right.
Yeah.
So I would say one thing, just always be consistent, figure out what works and do more of that.
That's good.
Right?
That's good.
So,
yeah. Was it more of a trial by fire thing that you did, or did you have mentors, coaches, leaders, social media masters that you've looked to? Yeah.
It's funny because we talk about, because I have invested in mentors. I think that's a valuable thing to do too. Like invest in someone who's done something before you, but
to kind of give proof of concept.
Right.
Gotcha.
But it's funny because I invested in several programs that were expensive and they do everything that I already know. And I think what they're just doing is they have more people working for them, or they just do more of what it is. Right. That's why I'm talking about consistency and the work it takes, because I thought it takes 1 post a day to get to this point. And for some people it does, right? Like some people, they can do 1 post and that's great. But for me, sometimes doing 2 posts a day, sometimes 3 a day, just depends on what it is, right? And what works for me.
Yeah.
I'm not telling people out there, hey, do 3 posts a day, because that's hard, right?
Yeah,
That's really hard.
To be consistent about, right?
Right. So just start with like maybe once every 2 days, once every 3 days, and then just build up from there. Because people always say, oh, this works. That's not always the case. Like something will work for somebody else that will never work for you.
Right.
But that's why you have to try different things to get to that point and find that one thing that does work for you, or maybe multiple things. Right. You just do more of that, and that'll get you to another point.
Right. One thing that I heard you mention was that what they have is the team. And so how valuable is it to have strategic partnerships or a team in place? Do you work with a team? Are you riding solo? Or are you looking to develop a team? What does that look like for you and Marvelous Muncher?
And Marvelous Muncher is crazy busy with a bunch of things, but for me, I've recently I've always had a video editor for, I want to say the past 2-3 years. I've had someone hired him from Upwork a few years back, and he's done a great job for me. It wasn't until the beginning of this year where I hired a second one because the frequency of videos, maybe we can get that later. But once I was able to do more videos, I needed help editing the videos. So I had someone from a previous job where I know he did videos, and he just randomly reached out to me. And I was like, you know what? Let me send you, because every night, dude, I was spending at least 2 to 3 hours editing my own videos. Right. All my food, my talking videos, that was all me for the longest time, and still to this day, it is for some videos. Right. But other people, like, once you realize someone can do even a job that's like 80 to 90% of what you do, and you can give that to them, that frees up your mind to do so much more, right? Like you can get more leads. You can actually work on the business and not for the business. Right. So I think that's one of the most, like, building out a team, right, I'm learning is very important. Yes. And I know for you too, right? Like, cause you smack in, even with other things, you need a team, right? Yeah. No, that's what I was going to allude to is like, I wouldn't even be able to be here right now talking to you, if I didn't have my team over here at Smackin', because we're recording this at lunch rush. Right. You know what I mean? And so like, I've been exited out of Smackin'. They didn't fire you?
About 90% of the way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still sole owner over Smackin'. But I'm only really taking care of like payroll or scheduling.
So the back end stuff.
Not even all of the back end stuff, really? Like literally like just a couple of the very, very low hanging fruit that I can just knock out in 10 minutes. Yeah. That's about how much time I dedicate to Smackin' a week now. Okay. Which I'm super, super grateful for, because I never really saw that light at the end of the tunnel coming out of this location. I thought this would be something that would come down the road. Yeah. But pieces fell into play, and, I realized it was a very hard and humbling task to be able to like find someone to delegate that role to, and trust them with it, and allow them to the space and freedom to be able to run with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because
so how have you done that? How like, because I'm sure people are listening, they're going to be like, wait, how does he do that? Yeah. So how?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just a sacrifice of pride, and letting go of your ego, really allowing, like I said, that space and freedom for someone to utilize either their education or utilize, their talents, their gifts that they built up, their skills that they developed. You know what I mean? Thankfully, I found this guy. I've known him for a very long time, but he had managerial experience at other places and was just coming back to San Diego, and it was just kind of like a right timing, right alignment type thing, because at that time that we hired him, Steph got pregnant. And so she had hyperemesis,
which is what?
Which is like morning sickness. Okay. That's severe morning sickness that, you can't hold down anything. So she couldn't literally, like, for the first few months, she couldn't hold down literally a sip of water.
Oh my gosh.
So she would go in, I would take her in to get her IVs and stuff like that, to make sure she got hydrated, baby is nourished, and things like that. And so it was just like I said, a right timing, right alignment thing. Right. Where it's like I kind of had to surrender that to, the grasp of this new person. Right. And allow their, whether it was his creativity or his vision or his leadership or managerial experience, kind of just run its own course. Right. And like I said, it's being able to develop that trust and being able to form that right partnership and trust that they're not going to take care of it in the way that you would, because that's your baby. You know what I mean? But allowing them, like I said, that space and creativity to be able to like pour in what they already have. Right. So I guess for you, it's, like you said something along the lines of like, they're going to do the editing work and it takes up about like 80 to 90%. And some of those edits may not have came out exactly how you've wanted them originally. And you kind of have to place this blueprint or template with them, or, in corporate terms, when I was working corporate, like standard operating procedures, for them to be able to know exactly what this is going to look like, literally from start to finish. Right. And so I think it's really that as well, being very systemized, being very strategic, and like I said, having these procedures in place, having these systems, having these goals, whatever it may be, in place already, so that when it gets handed off, like they're not just floating.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, because even for me in my videos, I had like a guideline, right? I wrote out a like SOP, right? I had that. So this is how it should look. This is the music I want in it. But then I also give them, like you said, creative freedom, right? Because maybe they know a better process. Maybe they know something that I don't, or maybe they can make something better on their own. Right. So it's also trusting them, and they follow that, but they also are able to kind of like do their own thing. Because what if the process is better than yours? Right. And you just don't know it because you don't give them a chance to express it. So and I think it's just like one thing, building trust, but also giving them the chance to do it. Right. Because you can't be like a micromanager and saying, hey, only this, all of this stuff, right? Because it's never going to work out if that's the case. You can never step away if you're going to be, hey, you didn't clean the floor properly, right? Or you spoke to this customer weird, like I don't like it, but like you just have to be a little bit more lenient in what you want and kind of like mold them, right? Give them a little bit of guidance too. So
and with that, Arneson has done an extremely amazing job, because he's not only taken the operations side of things and run with it, and also being able to just like be the manager on site, but he's also then implemented, some menu items. So like the smackasubis, like
Smack-and-subi?
Yeah, smack-and-subis. So
okay, what's in it?
The red rice, spam masubis with like our own, secret sauce.
Oh, secret.
Little secret sauce.
Love that.
He was like, why don't we, implement this as something to be able to upsell, you know what I mean? And whether, it's just a few of them a day, like it's still, it's in the restaurant business. So let me give you a little restaurant technique or tip is, if I had known this sooner, but it's literally to the penny, like you need to know your numbers to a penny when it comes to restaurant, because if I'm buying 40 pounds of chicken, which is very like, little to us, like we do about 400 plus pounds in a few days. Right. And so, if we're buying them for $2 a pound versus $1.50 a pound, and where you're sourcing it. Like, that's why it's all so important, because those 50 cents or that 25 cents per all of those pounds, that's just for like a few days. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so like when we start to implement things like smack-and-subis, or when we start to implement things like the smack-and fried chicken, which is, shoot, I'm over here giving some
Dude, my mouth is watering. I'm sorry. I'm drooling over here.
I'll just give it out for them. We use, so when we butterfly our chicken, we have these things we call the scraps, which is perfectly good chicken, but it's just like the chicken that we put on the plate is very uniformed.
Right.
Right. It's nice to the eye, you know, presentable,
Yeah.
you know. And so we cut off like, you know, this little chunk of meat, chicken, you know, from the thigh, and then we'll put that aside. For the longest time, we would use some of it for like our karumpika, which is a soup dish that we only serve on Fridays.
Okay.
And so sometimes though that meat would spoil, or sometimes we wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so, or we would just like have super abundance of overstock because we would boil it for our empanadas.
Okay.
And we would use that meat for the empanadas after we grind it, you know, shred it up. And so we would have this oversupply. And so it's like, okay, we're just having inventory sit in the freezer.
Yeah.
Right. And so now he came into play and he was like, you know, why don't we make fried chicken? You know, why don't we like make
like
it
popcorn chicken
or
what?
like, yeah,
What are you
like a
talking about?
popcorn chicken,
Okay.
like a karage type thing.
Love
But,
that. Okay.
you know, it's like in the Chamorro culture, like that's a very popular item. And this is where I had like some kind of conflict at first, you know, because it's like, that's not a like quote unquote like authentic dish like that, but it is a fiesta item. You know, fried chicken is like at every Chamorro fiesta.
Right.
And so like I was just trying to play that boundary of like, okay, does this really align with our brand, or is it just something that we're fishing for to get some more money? You know what I mean? But then like I ended up being open to it because I was like, okay, I'm going to justify this as like, okay, this is a fiesta menu item anyways. People, you know, Chamorro culture, we eat fried chicken all the time. And so, yeah, that's what eventually led to this fried chicken menu item. And we now have it in a plate called the par plate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And
is it doing well?
it's doing well.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, like we sell a few of them a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's nowhere near, you know, our barbecue chicken.
Okay.
You know, that's our bread
Signature.
our signature bread and butter. That's house Mackin is
Yeah.
able to put the lights on. You
Love
know,
that. Yeah.
that and the empanadas. But yeah, it was able to, like I said, add that upsell because it was just a quote unquote scrap anyways.
Right,
You know
right,
what I
right.
mean? Sometimes we would waste that. Sometimes it would just go to oversupply.
Yeah.
So now we found a way to be able to utilize it as a regular, consistent thing. And now we're rotating through inventory,
Yeah.
you know, daily through it.
So you leaned in on his creativity to come up with this item. Now you're able to actually use it for something.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
I think that's great because I think a lot of ways we think something should just be that you start from here and you get here. Right. Or you just, because that's a thought you just didn't really have in mind. Right. It was kind of like, well, we're just not going to use it, throw it away, whatnot. But then here a new perspective comes in.
Right.
They're like, hey, why don't you twist this a little bit or do this part? And you're like, oh, maybe I should try it out. Right.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually, he gave me an idea. He was like, because a lot of my talking videos, it's always just been talking videos, me in front of the camera. But he's like, why don't you try doing different things? Or like, why maybe something else, right? And I was like, you know what? Because I thought it had to be one way, right? I found a video, like I was saying earlier, that performed well for me. And so why don't I just repeat that process? People say they love it, all that stuff, which I think still plays a big part in my own brand. But it's also like, why don't you try switching it up and doing a fun video or something like that? And back in the day, dude, like I used to do skits on YouTube. Kind of weird, but I did.
I've seen the transition, so I'm excited to hear this part.
Thank you. But back in the day, back when I first started on YouTube, was like my first YouTube video went live in 2011.
Wow.
But I was never consistent, so my page has never really grown. But I used to do fun skits where. One, I played Manny Pacquiao's like long lost brother. I did a song, you know, Bruno Mars. There was a Bruno Mars. I forgot what song it was, but it was basically me and a red velvet cupcake. We had a good time together. There was another one where I played a girl in it, and I was like doing makeup. I privated all these videos on YouTube, so if you guys try to look for it, you're not gonna find it. You're not gonna find it because I was afraid people were gonna say and cancel me for something. So I just took those all down. But basically, he gave me the idea to be more creative. Like say, hey, dude, why don't you try something else? Maybe it could work. And that kind of led me into doing more of like the customer interactions and me actually looking for them, right? Trying to interact with people. Because it makes them more, you know, I'm not just a person who talks about food.
Right.
I love talking to people in general. So like it kind of just shows a different dimension to you too, which is great.
That's good, man. The one thing that I keep hearing you going back to is consistency.
Yeah.
So is that your like, if I'm looking to give this key to success for people to be, you know, great in social media or great in life, whatever it may be, like what extent does consistency play a part in your day to day or into your business?
I mean, it plays a part every single day, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like forever. Because if you think about it, you have to be consistent in anything to get good at it and be successful at it, right? With working out, especially with your business, like you said, with the chicken, like you have to be consistent with making your barbecue chicken a certain way, because if not, people are gonna be like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
this doesn't taste the same.
Right.
So consistency plays a part in everything in your daily life, you know, like I think, and for me, it does. Like my schedule switches every day here and there, but it always stays true to, hey, let me post up a video. Speaking in regards to social media, let me post one video a day, at least one day. Let me post some different things going on. But yeah, consistency plays a big part.
How big are stories in social media? Yeah.
I think they play a big part. I mean, it depends on your goal, right? Like if you're trying to nurture your own audience, because obviously people who will only follow you see your stories. But I would say stories are like if you think about TV, right? They're like commercials in between the show. So your show can be like a post, right? Like your reel can be a post, like the actual TV show, and then the commercial breaks are your stories. So that's kind of like I like to view them. Like stories go away in 24 hours, so it's like you can do whatever on them. Not that big of a deal. So it's fun. It's like you just play around with it, you know?
That's really
things.
good. That's a really good perspective. I've never heard someone, break it down in that way. Yeah. So that's really good. Did you come up with that yourself?
No, I heard it somewhere. I don't know where. I'm not going to take credit for it. But I heard it somewhere and I was like, that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people just overthink content, right? They're like, oh, this isn't pretty. This doesn't look good. But what looks good to you doesn't look good to somebody else, right? What looks bad to you may look amazing to somebody else. You just don't know. But
I actually, now that I'm starting to develop, the YouTube channel, starting to get, a whole bunch of things rolling just with mine and Steph's, but I'm also going to be taking on other people's pods and helping them to, create this growth package for them and things like that. I tend to look at, who the successful people are, you know what I mean? And what they're doing. And that's really how I've built a lot of my, wisdom and knowledge around every single business that I've been in is I do my homework and I study. And so I look at like people like Mr. Beast and I'm like, what is he doing? You know what I mean? Because he's the number one, YouTuber, right? So what is he doing that's so much different? And I saw the post come out just a week ago, I think it was, where he was showing his A/B testing with thumbnails and how many iterations he went through. Crazy. For just one post. Yeah. This is just one video, but that's, when you get to that level, I guess for him especially, like I hear all the talk of like, Gary Vee's like, oh yeah, just be consistent, post 1, 2, 3 times a day if you can on Reels, and then 6 stories or something if you're like really trying to hit it, like, and it doesn't need to be perfect, like you said, it just needs to be consistent. Whereas like when I look at people like Mr. Beast that are executing in excellency, they're like his level of excellency towards his videos and how he is so particular, because like he's only releasing like once every few days or week or whatever, and then it's like, but all of those are hitting. Right. Everything's going to hit. Yeah. Everything's going to hit from Mr. Beast now, especially now from this point, because he has such a large sphere of influence and everything like that. But yeah, it was just so interesting to me that he broke down and showed to us that he went through, I think it was like 1,000 iterations of like one thumbnail. Wow. And from Amazon FBA, I don't know if you actually took practice in it, but testing the different product photography and like, going to like a review site and then allowing them to be able to A/B test it and things like that. That's essentially what he does, but probably
on a grander scale. Yeah.
And I'm like, holy moly.
But you think about going back to consistency, he's been consistent for how long, right? His first video, I think this video I saw of him was when he counted to 100,000 or something, right? Like back in the day, he literally did that. Wow. And he was watching Naruto, like he was just like sitting there watching it and counting. Yeah. And that video went viral because who does that? Who does that, right? And with the A/B testing too, the fact that he's another thing that we should bring up, Christian, is singular focus, right? Like you said, your passion, right? You focus on one thing and you go hard in it, right? Because with Mr. Beast, he focused on YouTube, and that was it. Everything else was like, no, I don't care about it. I want to do well on YouTube, and he found out and he thought about, okay, what does it take to be successful on YouTube, right? I need to get good on thumbnails, come up with good video topics. I need to, like spend money on it, Like he thinks about everything because he's been in it so long and he doesn't distract himself from other things. Like now he has Mr. Feast or Feastables and all the other stuff, but that wasn't in the beginning. In the beginning, it was one thing and only one thing, and everything else I'm saying no to. Right. And that's how you get really good at something. You just stick to that one thing.
Yeah. Because then, it just goes into the levels of like knowledge and wisdom. It's like you can start off with a basic level, then you start developing some form of competency.
Right.
You know, you start to understand what you're doing. Then you get into this level of, okay, I actually know what I'm able to talk about, and then I can teach about it. And then when you become a master of something, you know how to create from it from scratch. You know how to manipulate it. You know, I think of like a master, like UFC fighter or jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be, like the way that they're able to then manipulate themselves to be able to get out of this lock or whatever it may be, or you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I don't even know if you watch UFC or boxing.
I do. Yeah,
okay. So, you know, like the difference in someone just over, you know, taking classes down at Legion or like Autos or something like that versus like someone on UFC is like, so there's levels to this. You know what I mean? Right. Like I come from a boxing family background. Yeah. And, you know, when I look at people like, I'm not going to name any types of names. Actually, we're not going to go there. Right. But, there's just levels to it. Right. And so I think what you're saying is, you know, when you get to that level of, you know, you have to be consistent to get started. Right. Be consistent to get started. But then you form this level of excellency and mastery to what you're doing. And that's when you really find your niche. And that's what I think that you've been able to do is where you're like, one, you're passionate about food. Yeah. But then like once you were able to find like, oh yeah, I can actually make money doing this. Right. I can actually like make this a true business. I can, you know what I mean? And I can just do it for the rest of my life. Essentially, if you if you really wanted to, because restaurants aren't going anywhere. Yeah. Social media is not going anywhere. Yeah. So now here you are all these years later. I've seen you develop from trying to do these like multiple routes, kind of still doing a little bit, but it's all correlated to food, which is like SD Collective. You know, you guys were able to launch that. Yeah. I remember going to the first one. You guys had, you guys brought your podcast setup of Chomping Things with Judy. That's right. Yeah. Over to Smack It. Yeah. You know, during the pandemic and try to give a little bit of spotlight and highlight to, you know, the underprivileged or, you know, kind of small businesses that were, you know, maybe perhaps struggling or whatever it may be, and just trying to give them a little bit of bump up. But now here you are, like 60, the last time I checked, like 60K followers or more, almost 70K followers or something like that. Yeah. You know, doing Marvelous Muncher. When I was just following you back then, it was still at like between 5 and 10K.
If that, man. It's like we said, it's crazy, right? Because I've been doing it for so long. I would see other people that blow up out of nowhere. Like we talked about TikTok earlier, right? And it's like, how are these people able to just blow up out of nowhere when I feel like I've been putting in the work for a long time? And I think that's other thing people can get value from this conversation is not comparing yourself to other people, because everybody's on their own timeline, right? You talked about, you know, Smackin' wasn't built to where it is today. It wasn't like this in the beginning, right? You weren't able to step away in the beginning. No. But the fact that you've stayed patient with it and you've decided not to, hey, I don't need to look at other people, another Chamorro grills in town, or even, you know, any other business, because you need to focus just on yourself, making yourself better. Because when you look at somebody else, it doesn't make you any better. If anything, it makes you feel bad about yourself, because you're like, well, like what, like why are they getting all this success and I'm not? But you don't know their story either, right? So it comes, because I remind myself every day, this is something that I go through a lot, is like, you see somebody else's success, it doesn't take away from your success, but it also just makes you feel bad. So just focus on yourself and making yourself better. You talked about watching Mr. Beast podcast, you know, things that make yourself better in business. Right. That's things other people can focus on too, right? Listening to this podcast, but also just making themselves better by finding those people that are successful in it and learning what they're doing what they're doing, trying to implement that, because that's going to get them to the next level and help them not focus on the other people that they think are doing well. Right. You know? So,
and not and looking to these people or these leaders or whatever as a form of mentorship or as a form of education, you know, separate from school, for example, you know, because there's a tons of ways that you can learn, you can educate yourself, and whether that's going to, you know, seminars, or whether that's, you know, finding out a leader, a coach, you know, or mentor, or just someone within your sphere of influence. You know, it's reaching out to these people, not to, like you said, compare to these people, but to give them, to have an example, to have a blueprint, to have a template in place so that you can go and run with it. Yeah. And one person that I always pointed to when you talk about, like, you know, not comparing yourself is Kobe. You know, I have a poster or a canvas in my room, my daughter's room actually, of him wearing 24 and 8, and they're guarding each other, or, you know, one's dribbling, the other one's guarding the other, you know, and it's like there was this distinction between who 8 and 24 was when it came to Kobe, but he always focused on his own mindset,
right?
His own faith, whatever it may be, like his own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't care about what you're doing, you know what I mean? Like, go home, go leave the gym. Like, and he was very clear about it, you know what I mean? If you're not going to put the work in and the time in, like I am, then I'm not going to pass you the ball, like,
right? Because
I know how much I did, you know what I mean? I know how much work I put into it. And so it's like, it's just this battle that when I look at that poster, I'm like, it's just a battle between you versus you.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's really what helped keep me going, especially during those long nights and stuff. Like with Smackin', people don't know, they look at like, you know, now the success of like being here for almost 5 years this June. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, they're doing well. I'm like, yeah, but you know, we've been in here, you know, 20 hours the first day of opening, 16 hours the next day. Like, right. And then from time to time, like, you know, we had to sweep out, you know, water from, you know, the back of the kitchen all the way to the front because there was floods and, you know, there was roof leaks and all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and we were there till 3 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever it may be. Yeah. And had to be back there at 7 a.m. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, people don't even know about all of that deep work or, you know, the long nights that me and my wife, because we didn't have that management level of team, like that C-level management to make decisions with us. It was just always relying on me and Steph. You know, thankfully we had our staff there that was able to kind of help with operations. But when it came to the executive decisions or, you know, kind of business decisions, it's like, it was just me and Steph. Yeah. And so we were just trying to figure it out one step at a time. And like, here we are, you know, all these years later, praise God. But now we've been able to take Smackin' and then turn it into the MK Lab where we're able to do this now. And same thing. You know, people walk in and they're like, oh yeah, how much did you spend on this place? Oh yeah, you know, we spent 6 figures, but at the same time, like I spent a whole bunch of time. Yeah. We got this last March, March 20th.
2023.
Of 2023.
Okay.
You know, and it took us a year to get it to the place where we really, really felt comfortable, really felt like we could empower other people in and through their gifts, where we could really put our love, soul, and creativity into it. Yeah. You know, and it was just like a lot of riding the wave through that whole motion. And like I said, like we did all the drywalling, we did all of this. We built out like this whole complex, and it was 16 to 20 hour days. During sometimes like even to like this week, I had like a 16-hour day. You know what I mean? Like, and so
does
I'm
it
still
feel like a 16-hour day, dude?
This one did. Okay. Because I've just been so gassed. Like my mind has been making deals. I've been making negotiations. I've been, you know, networking. You know what I mean? Building relationships and partnerships and sphere of influences and things like that. And so it's like, it's fun. Yeah. I enjoy it. You know. Yeah. But I'm still gassed at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm ready to be home with the kids. Yeah, you know? Of course. I haven't seen my kids and, you know, all that time. I haven't seen my wife in all that time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful that I have that partner that's being able to be there and like support, you know, the overall mission and vision and carry that out alongside me, you know, without feeling like she's just like, you know, stay-at-home mom, because like she's like a very hands-on person. Yeah, you know, and so
I mean,
like,
you said she designed a lot of even here, right?
Yeah. She's very good with her, you know, her vision when it comes to design, and then actually implementing and integrating it with her hands. Yeah. You know what I mean? So she loves to be in that space, and she's like, man, I totally want to be there, and I'm like, you know, it's gonna come. You know, like once baby comes and you know, we get daycare, whatever, you know,
then she'll be able to
be.
I mean, like side note, the bathroom here is sick, dude. I love the vibe. You know, you have a neon sign in there. You need to turn on the light, but it's just like the fairy lights in there. You're like, oh, I could poop in here all day, man. I'm not gonna leave, you know. It's a cool little vibe, man. You guys did a great job here. I think it looks awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask me before we wrap up?
I mean, I did. We talked about business. You know, you're getting into business coaching, you said, right? So one of the things is for you potentially trying to get leads or getting leads for that. You know, maybe do you have some people that you're coaching already?
Yes.
Okay, so like, how did those people come about? How do you how do you get more people, whether it's for even advertising smacking, right? Like how do you get more people to your doors? How do you get more people to become leads? How do you find your own leads?
Yeah, so there's two routes you can go down. You can either go organic or non-organic being that you pay for them, so that whether that be going to someone that is great at lead generation, or whether that's doing your own, PPC or paid ads,
right,
via Facebook or Google or whatever it may be, depending on what industry that you're in. So there's that route. And then there's also the organic route, which is the way that I have pretty much done my whole, time of like, once I took this big leap into like smacking and everything, is like, I think I've only spent maybe less than $5,000 in like the past 5 years, with smacking when it comes to like paid ads.
Okay.
Probably less than $5,000.
That's good.
Yeah. And so like a lot of it was just, word of mouth, you know, and just putting yourself out there. And this is where I now know, looking at someone like you across the table with tons of social media presence. And this is what I'm going to be teaching on as well, is like, you have to develop that.
Right.
Because if you want to be able to not have to like depend on paid ads or to depend on like networking events and trying to like, put yourself in front of all these people, how can you do that?
Right.
For free.
Yeah.
For free. You just develop the social media presence. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I, am building towards right now is developing that. But those are my two, kind of ways that I go about things. But the predominant way that I go about it is through word of mouth and sphere of influence.
Do you do anything with smacking that gets aside from Facebook ads or anything social or online? As in, do you offer coupons? Do you offer only reason I bring this up is because I work with a lot of restaurants, right? And a lot of them always wonder, is there other ways of getting more people to the door? And I do a lot of research and I hear about like how one person for DoorDash, for example, actually Funky Fries and Burgers, to throw out a name, I was asking him the same question, and he was saying one thing that they would do is they would put a coupon in there to go like DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that stuff. Say, hey, if you eat here, we'll give you 10% off. Right. So it incentivizes people to go in. So you're not paying the extra fee to Uber and DoorDash.
Yeah. So we've done that.
Cool.
Yeah, we've done that. We will incentivize them. Like I said, like we try to do it in the least amount of money outgoing,
of course,
right, as possible. And so sometimes one will get like the delivery or the DoorDash pickups for the restaurant. Yeah. Because they're ordering it through DoorDash. We're like, oh, you can just order it online through our app. Or now because we have our own app, people can go in, order online through the app, and then have it delivered to them.
Oh, really?
And that actually is like a way vaster range too.
Yeah.
You can go like, I think over 15 or 20 miles, to have that delivered, and it's a flat rate.
Okay.
It's like $10 or something like that for like over 10 miles.
Is it just a certain time you guys deliver for that if you do it through the app, or it's any time of the day when you guys are open?
So we're actually white labeled through DoorDash.
Okay.
So we have our own DoorDash drivers that work with us, and then they go and do their own deliveries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool, man. Very cool. I think that makes a lot of sense because I think hearing you guys have been in business for 5 years is awesome. I think a lot of the restaurants that I work with, all I hear from them is, oh, I'm struggling, all of this stuff. And it's like, not every restaurant owner is struggling. There's people that are successful on it. You guys, I talked to a few of them, and there's ways to be successful.
Yeah.
So
I would say the answer to that is, one, you have to have the great product. Like first and foremost, you have to have the great product. If you don't have the great product, then no one's going to want to buy it in the first place.
Right.
Doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? And then two is, once you have the great product, putting that in front of their face. So, via social media or literally like the old food court method, like literally stand outside, like and have a toothpick.
Right. With your food on it.
Put it out there. What I mean? Costco it. You know what I mean? Use what people are already doing well and just make it better. And the other thing I was going to say was, what was I going to say? What was I going to go with there? I don't remember. Yeah. But yeah, those are a couple of things.
It's good stuff, man. I think the thing for business owners and as well as like restaurant owners, especially, the only way to be successful in the business is to try different things. Yeah. Right. One thing might do well for a little bit. Like you said, you spent 5 G's on Facebook ads. I know people that I follow and I just listened to, they said, if you find something that works, well, like an ad, for example,
Mm-hmm.
throw more money at it,
Yeah.
right? Like put more money at it because
Right.
you want to add gas to the fire, right? Like you want
Right.
to keep it going. If you know it's going to do well, you have like a deal, 10% off of my signature chicken, you come in, all of this stuff, right? And that, that starts performing well on social. Then you add money to it, see what more it can reach. See, because it's not only one thing will work.
Mm-hmm.
It's this and this. It's
Right.
this and this.
Right.
Because once you find different avenues of things that work, maybe you do one thing for a little bit more, you still do both, but one takes over a little bit, then you switch back and forth, right?
Right.
There needs to be variety. There needs to be change.
And this
all that
is
stuff
this
too.
is just marketing
Yeah.
101 too. Is like is A/B test, or this is a little deeper than 101, but
Yeah.
it's A/B testing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna test this market for a little bit, and then I'm gonna test this one, and then
Yeah.
whatever's working well, then we're gonna throw more at this.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. I think a lot of people can learn from that, and just if you start doing and see what happens, right?
100%.
Right.
And this was this kind of just goes back real quick is to like, you can do that organically or non-organically too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you said, people started to like these more like funny videos or story videos that you have for yourself versus just the food video.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like once you catch on to that and gain those insights and you start to really know your audience, that's another big thing is
Right.
knowing your audience. Know them. I had another guest on here, Nerd Like Jazzy. She's another influencer. She's a sneaker influencer.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so she was able to talk on knowing your audience. Like she also has a consulting company that
Cool.
helps others in the marginalized communities develop their brands and give them a brand voice and things like that.
Yeah.
And so she really talked on like knowing your customers to like the very depth, like what do you want, and how I knew this early on and why I wanted to really niche down towards the authentic Chamorro food was because no one else was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be able to get like a very niche amount of people that really care about authenticity
Yeah.
and care for it. And when I went to like this seminar, I was getting taught by the CEO of Taco Bell.
Oh, cool.
And he talked about the psycho demographics, which is like Taco Bell looks for the like men 35 to 45 years old, still living out of their mom's basement and has their hand in their pants essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, knowing your customer to that level, that's exactly who you're trying to target, who you're trying to market to. Do those people necessarily care about the story or do they care about the food posts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, okay, maybe Taco Bell's just going to hype up the food posts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas like, I think for us, we're kind of focusing more on like community. We're trying to really inspire people past just food or just past, whatever maybe. And for me, it's the gift, right? To tie it all back together is like, I want you to really focus in on your gift and how we're going to activate and multiply that, in to make it sustainable and also thriving.
Yeah.
And like you said, you want to be able to inspire people to be able to, cultivate that gift and whatever they have as well. And you're using food to be able to kind of bring that to life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, food is universal, right? People can always relate to food. And I think that's why food content always does well. But it's okay, I do food content now. What else can I do with it? How can I inspire people? What do I really want to do with the food content? Right. I mean, and for me, it's always been, let me help you also create content for yourself. Let me help you brand yourself, let me help you get your business out there more because it's all about social media awareness now. Right. And I think for me, that's my calling. It's to help people figure out that and get that going because it's going to help everybody out.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all one piece of the body and we're all trying to find out how to get a piece of the pie.
Right.
And you need to have those certain people that are going to be able to play those specific roles and be a part of that team. Like we've been talking about is how can you develop that team? How can you continue to delegate? And so if I have someone like Vince, that's Marvelous Muncher, that's, excels in this space, then let him do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Allow him to do it. He's already doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to like have pride to like learn it all, or like I can learn a very basic understanding at least, so then we can talk about it and I can kind of help influence and shape a direction, but allow that person to go and have the creativity and the freedom to do it because they're already doing well at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key point that we've been talking about.
The whole thing.
And then also consistency.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, but anything else you wanted to ask me?
I mean, I could keep this conversation going forever, dude. Honestly, I have so many. Because I guess for me, I just love talking.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I love listening more. That's why I think for me, it's like, hey, let me ask you a question. Okay,
Yeah.
you talk.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You talk. You know, like it's never like because when I keep talking, I feel like it's too much sometimes, and I talk a lot to the camera myself. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to hear other people talk.
Yeah.
One more question for you. If you were to do one thing in your life for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
what would that be?
What would that be? Serving.
Serving.
Yeah.
People, God,
Serving people.
all of that.
Yeah. God, people. Yeah. Being able to do both business and ministry is like, and I'm trying to find that bridging of the gap is really where I'm moving towards right now. It's like, how can I do ministry in the marketplace? You know, is essentially what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of forging that path. Yeah, that's really what Keys to the City is all about. And so I'm going to leave you off with this. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to put a bow on it.
Yeah.
You know, we can talk more off pod or, you know, another 3-hour pod another time or something.
Yeah.
But this is what Keys to the City is about. It's built on Matthew 5:14, which is, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. And so what that means is to continue to go out into the community, continue to go out into the marketplace, continue to be a light in your community. And ultimately for us, it's to be able to give glory to God and to be, you know, that salt and light in the community in that way. But whatever gift that you have, just continue to put light into it and continue to serve your community. And I think that you're already doing that so far, but just continue to do that. And that's my encouragement for you. And that's what Keys to the City is really built on as well. Yeah. So with that being said,
awesome, man.
Thank you for coming on, bro.
Thanks
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Make sure you go follow Vince at Marvelous Muncher.
That's right.
Yeah, you have any other tags that you have? Or?
Marvelous Muncher, Marvelous Marketing Online. I haven't released any really good social media tips. It's usually through my food page. San Diego Collective, our food fest. We do that about once a month. Come and check us out. SD Collective on Instagram to be updated on, you know, constant festivals when we're putting that on. And yeah, support Smackin', you know, come on through. Come to this podcast studio, this whole like creator studio, I would say, right?
Yeah,
it's
MK Lab.
Yeah, MK Lab is dope, man. I think the way you designed it, this whole setup, I think it's going to be really successful. And I'll be back with my own podcast too, because I love this setup. It makes it easier on me. So I love this. Awesome, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thank
you.
you.
Peace.